Think about this for a second. 100 years ago, one of the world's greatest minds travels to a nation right at a crossroads. He sees this profound, incredible beauty, something he thinks could actually change the world. But he also sees this looming shadow. And the message he delivered that day, it's a warning that you'll see is shockingly relevant to us right now.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's 1916, we're in Tokyo, and you've got the Nobel Prize-winning poet Rabindranath Tagore standing up in front of a bunch of university students. Now you have to remember, the world is deep in the First World War, and Japan has modernized at lightning speed and is really starting to flex its muscles on the global stage. So what on earth does a poet from India have to tell them in a moment like this? And what's so cool is how he kicks things off. He's totally upfront, right? He basically says, look, I know I'm an outsider, and I might be romanticizing some of this stuff. He's pretty much telling the audience, I know what you're thinking, but he doubles down, insisting that what he's about to say, it isn't just some tourist daydream. He believes it's a vital, fundamental truth.
Okay, so what was it? What was this powerful truth that Tagore saw in Japan, and what was the danger, the thing that made him feel so desperate to warn them? Come on, let's follow his journey and see what he found.
So, first up, a poet's first impression. And Tagore didn't exactly show up wearing rose-colored glasses. He was actually pretty skeptical. He was worried he'd find that the real Japan was just buried under some cheap knockoff version of the West. And his first look around seemed to prove him right. So he's looking out over the port city of Kobe, and he's not seeing beautiful temples or cherry blossoms. Nope, what he sees is this, just a massive sea of corrugated iron roofs. It hit him, and he actually wrote this down, like a giant iron dragon that had literally devoured a piece of the living earth. But then, everything changed. He had this moment that completely shifted his perspective. He contrasts that ugly, industrial iron dragon with this chance encounter he had at a train station with a group of Buddhist priests. He said their quiet dignity, their simple reverence, that was the real source of Japan's greatness. It was like a golden light of peace that just washed away all that modern noise. That moment was everything. It let him see past the surface, past the modern stuff, to what he believed was the nation's true soul. So, what exactly was it? He boiled it down to one single, powerful idea: Maitri. Now, that's a Sanskrit word, and it means this spiritual bond of love and deep relationship. For him, this wasn't just some abstract philosophy. No, he saw it as the very bedrock of Japanese civilization, the thing that connected people not just to each other, but to the natural world all around them. And he saw this Maitri everywhere, in really tangible ways. In their genius for simplicity, in their quiet self-control, and in this incredible ability to find deep beauty in the most ordinary things, like a simple teacup. He saw it in how their society was built on human relationships, more like a big family than a bunch of cold, impersonal contracts. And this really gets to the heart of what he was saying. Tagore saw two totally different paths. You had the Western approach, dominate nature, analyze it, control it from the outside. And then you had the Japanese ideal, to live with it, to make its beauty a real part of your own life. And for him, that wasn't weakness. Oh no, that was a much, much deeper, more profound kind of genius.
Okay, and that brings us right to the core of his warning. He was terrified that this unique genius of theirs was under threat from the shadow of what he called the Western machine. Its materialism, its politics, its obsession with just utility above everything else. Wow, what a phrase, right? Organized ugliness. For Tagore, Western industrial civilization wasn't just neutral, it was an active, aggressive force. He was worried that its sheer size, its relentless persistence, and its power to mock anything deeper or more spiritual would just overwhelm Japan's more delicate, beautiful spirit. So he sets up this really stark comparison. On one side, you've got the genius of Japan, seeing beauty in the world and having the power to bring it into your life. On the other, the genius of Europe, a power for organization that fuels politics, business, and conquest. These were two fundamentally different ways of seeing the world, and he saw them on a collision course. Tagore basically begged his audience not to get these two things confused. He argued that being modern wasn't about wearing European clothes or building boxy, ugly houses. That was just copying, what he called a slavery of taste. Real modernism, he said, was about freedom of mind, freedom of thought.
And this all leads to the climax of his lecture. He puts a really stark choice in front of Japan, framing this as a critical moment in their history.
with huge consequences for the whole world. He asks this absolutely devastating rhetorical question. Is the Western model, the one that builds its entire national welfare behind this barricade of universal distrust, is that really the right path? He's forcing them to stop and think about the moral price tag of the power they were so tempted to copy.
And this is the motto he believed was written at the very heart of Western civilization. Something he felt came from twisting the scientific idea of survival of the fittest. It's a philosophy that says, help yourself, and who cares what it costs anyone else, totally blind to how connected we all are.
Then Tagore lays out the tragic steps he was afraid Japan would take. It starts, he says, by putting weapons ahead of the soul. Then you accept the West's selfish motives. Before you know it, politics is crushing your social ideals, and finally, you're gambling away the nation's soul just to win a political game. It's a terrifyingly clear and logical progression, isn't it?
So his call to action was crystal clear. He told them their unique culture, their spirit, that was a gift. But in the modern world, you couldn't take it for granted anymore. They had to consciously choose to hold on to it. The future wasn't just going to happen. It had to be decided, right now.
He doesn't just end with a warning, though. He ends with a prophecy, a vision for the future that looks way beyond the conflicts of his day to something, well, eternal.
He prophesies that the whole Western model, this tower of national selfishness, is fundamentally unstable. He saw it as a kind of rebellion against the moral laws of the universe, and he believed that, weighed down by its own greed and bulk, it was destined to come crashing down.
And after that collapse, after the fire of materialism and war finally burns itself out, what then? Well, Tagore offers this incredible vision of hope. He believed the eternal light of the human spirit would shine again, and it wouldn't rise from the West, but from the East, the birthplace of the world's great spiritual traditions.
You know, Tagore's lecture was aimed at Japan way back in 1916, but his questions, they feel like they could have been written for us, right here, right now. And that's what we're left with, over 100 years later. In our own lives, in our own societies, who's winning the battle for our soul? Is it the spirit of beauty, of connection and grace? Or is it the cold, efficient motive of the machine?